Your team might be working incredibly hard right now, and it's still failing the people it's meant to serve. And almost no one will tell you that to your face. Let me explain what I mean, because this isn't about effort or talent. It's about attention and where that attention goes, especially when pressure builds. Hi, I'm Beth Strathman. Welcome to my channel. Now, I've worked with all types of teams in all sizes of companies, and one pattern shows up more consistently than almost any other. A team is hitting its internal metrics, deadlines are met, the work looks from the outside like real performance. And the people that team actually exists to serve, whether that's another department, a customer base, or the broader organization, have quietly started experiencing something different. Slower responsiveness to what they actually need. Reports and deliverables that technically arrive on time, but don't match how they make decisions anymore. There's a growing sense that the team optimized for its own definition of excellence and lost the thread connecting that excellence to anyone outside itself. This is called the stakeholder gap. And in the next several minutes, I want to show you exactly how it forms, why your executive team is uniquely vulnerable to it, and what the highest performing teams do differently to stay connected to those they serve. Here's what makes this dangerous. This gap does not look like a problem while it's forming. It looks like productivity. That's exactly why it goes unnoticed until the cost becomes very hard to ignore. The concept of stakeholder theory in management, generally credited to a scholar named R. Edward Freeman, makes a simple, powerful claim. Organizations have real obligations to everyone affected by their decisions, not just to the people who own stock in those organizations. This core insight applies just as powerfully within a single team as it does across an entire company. Every team has stakeholders, those people who depend on what that team produces. And the moment a team stops actively asking what those stakeholders need, performance starts to drift, quietly, often without anyone on the team noticing. Think about a finance team that prides itself on timeliness and accuracy. Reports go out exactly on schedule. Numbers are clean every time. Meanwhile, the operations leaders, depending on those reports, have stopped reading them closely because the format stopped matching how they make their decisions. Nobody on the finance team asked operations what they needed. The finance team got excellent at the work it has always done, and done well. The needs of the people depending on that work moved somewhere else. The team never noticed. That is the stakeholder gap. In its simpler form, a team becomes very good at producing something that quietly stops being what's actually needed. Now, here's the part most leaders genuinely don't expect. Your executive team, the group with the most visibility and the most authority in the organization, is often the most vulnerable to this exact pattern. Here's why. Executive teams are particularly exposed to the stakeholder gap because the people they serve are often less visible day to day than a frontline team's customers. For example, a senior leadership team can spend months deep in internal strategic debate, working through real and important disagreements, fully convinced that the work happening in their room, that room, matters. And it usually does matter. But meanwhile, the board members waiting to see clear strategic or tactical implementation, the broader organization waiting on a decision, or the frontline managers waiting on priorities are experiencing something closer to silence. The executive team is working hard. The stakeholders who depend on that team's output are not feeling served. This is especially common during periods of rapid growth or significant change. What researchers in organizational behavior describe as change in a complex adaptive system. an environment where conditions shift continuously and require ongoing collective adjustment rather than a single fixed plan. In that kind of an environment, stakeholder needs evolve faster than most executive teams revisit their assumptions about what those stakeholders actually require. And here's the part that compounds the problem. This gap does not remain at the executive level. It travels. I want to walk you through exactly how this cascades, because once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere in your organization. When an executive team loses clarity on what the organization actually needs from it, that ambiguity doesn't disappear. It moves downward. Senior managers receive unclear priorities from above and translate that ambiguity into their own teams, often without fully realizing they're doing it. Middle managers, who are already stretched thin in most growing companies, end up making local decisions disconnected from what the people above and below them actually require. Functional teams like finance, marketing, operations, or customer success start optimizing for internal metrics that no longer map clearly to what the rest of the organization actually needs from them. By the time this reaches the front line, the people closest to your actual customers are sometimes working from priorities that no longer reflect what those customers need at all. And here's the part that makes it especially hard to diagnose. Everyone involved at every single level can point to real evidence that they are working hard and performing well by their own internal standards. No one is slacking, everyone is busy. The system has simply lost its connection to the people that it is there to serve. That's exactly why systemic team coaching treats the team as a living system connected outward to its stakeholders, rather than a collection of individuals executing isolated tasks. A team can be filled with genuinely talented, hard-working people and still produce a significant stakeholder gap. The gap is a structural problem, not a talent problem. So here's what actually closes this gap, and it's simpler to describe than it is to sustain, which is exactly why most teams don't do it consistently. Closing the stakeholder gap starts with naming your team's actual stakeholders explicitly, out loud, in a real team conversation. Most teams have never done this. They carry an assumed list in each of their heads that none of them has ever compared against each other's version. That exercise alone tends to uncover real disagreement, which is useful information, not a problem to smooth over quickly. From there, ask with genuine curiosity, not defensiveness, what those stakeholders would say about whether your team's current priorities still serve them well. This question is uncomfortable to ask honestly. That discomfort is a sign that the question is doing real work. And then build a recurring rhythm into how your team operates. Something as simple as a quarterly stakeholder check-in, where the team deliberately turns its attention outward and asks what has changed. In a complex adaptive environment, and most growing companies are navigating exactly that kind of environment right now, stakeholder needs shift faster than most annual planning cycles wrap up. This is not about adding more process. It's about building a discipline of outward intention and attention precisely at the moment when internal pressure makes turning inward feel safer. I want to leave you with the real marker of a high-performing team, because it's not what most leaders assume. The teams that consistently outperform are not the ones with the most talented individuals or the cleanest internal processes. They are the teams that have built the discipline of staying genuinely connected to those they serve, even when internal pressure pulls their attention elsewhere. That discipline is not a soft skill. It is a structural choice about where a team's attention goes when things get difficult. If you lead a team right now, here's the question to consider this week. Not your roadmap, not your deliverables, simply this. Who are we actually serving, and would they say we still see them clearly? If this video resonated with you, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Every month I share practical insight for leaders building teams that actually perform, not just teams that look busy. And if you want a structured way to start this conversation with your own team, there's a link in the description to a free stakeholder lens auditing tool, along with a path to a direct conversation with me when you're ready to go further. The clearest view of your team's performance never comes from inside the room. It comes from the people you serve. Thanks for watching.